Legacy IAS Academy. In this video, we will be discussing a main topic series with current affair highlights. What do I mean by that? In today's video, we will be discussing president and vice president topic by mixing both static as well as your current affair topics. Now, when we are going through the topic of president and vice president, first we will see it section wise. First, let's see from your president perspective, wherein we will see what are the constitutional provisions, we will see what are the powers, objectives. Then we will also see what is the current affair news with relation to president. Then we will do the same for vice president. First, we will speak about your constitutional provisions, we will see the powers, etc. And then we will see the current affair perspective for both president as well as vice president. Alright. Let's get the topic started. What are the topics that we will be discussing from your president topic? We will be speaking from constitutional context, that is what are the constitutional provisions, which articles mention about them. We will be speaking about the election of president, we will be speaking about the qualification, eligibility criteria. We will also be speaking about your term, resignation, vacancy. We will be speaking from powers and functions. Now the same structure we will follow for president as well as vice president. We will be speaking about your veto powers, ordinance making powers. We will also be discussing about your recent current affair developments, constitutional questions, vice president's resignation. Understanding? This will be the agenda for the day. Where will it be helpful for your UPSC preparation? That is your GS paper 2 Polity. Alright? First and foremost, when I tell president, the terms that is used to describe the president is, he is considered as the first citizen, he is the constitutional head, he is also the symbol of national unity, he heads the trifactors or your army, navy, air force, military, so he is the supreme head. Understanding? And in our country, now when we are going to be speaking about president, there are few things I want you to consider. De facto power, de jure power. De facto means your nominal authority, de jure means your actual or real power. In our country, president holds de facto authority where he is the nominal authority. And also one of the things that you have to see from your president perspective, see we tell constitution has created three organs, that is legislature, executive and judiciary. Your president is given the position in such a manner that he is a part of legislature, which means your parliament comprises of your Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha and your president. Your executive, he is automatically the part of executive under president, prime minister, council of ministers, yes, attorney general. Then under judiciary, see when we say judiciary, he has certain things like your pardoning powers. Now that is not a judicial power or judicial capacity, but he has the powers to pardon. If these are with respect to the constitutional provisions where he holds, or he is more like a tie that connects all three organs. Another aspect you have to consider is with respect to our preamble. The foremost features of our preamble are the features of our preamble are sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. I want you to focus on the last portion here. Republic. That means our head of state is the President of India. And for you to become a President of India, unlike your British, you don't have to be monarchical. You do not have to come from a particular family or lineage, but you have to be 35 plus years of age, you have to be a citizen of India, you have to be almost qualified to be like a person of your Lok Sabha member. Understanding? So these are some of the provisions which speak about how the head of state is. Our head of state is a reflection of how our country or how our value systems are when we say head of our country. Alright? So constitutional provisions are described or entailed in from articles 52 to 78, wherein we will be speaking about your president, with regarding to your prime minister, council of ministers, right? He is also part of union executive. The office of president is described in your article 52. Now, how is the election of president taking place? See, first of all, when we take de facto or de jure, presidential form of election. Now we will be speaking this from your Ambedkar perspective. B.R. Ambedkar's perspective on president. The office of president is more of ceremonial in nature. Yes or no? When it is a ceremonial position, then again having all the people to elect would be a costly and unnecessary affair, and also would lead to a disruption between federalism. So for that manner, they picked an indirect form of election for your president. How? We have an indirect form of election with respect to proportional representation through single transferable vote and secret ballot. Who are the members who will be taking part in the election of president? Your elected members of Lok Sabha, elected members of Rajya Sabha, and elected members of State Legislative Assembly, elected members of your union territories with state legislature. Understanding? So only the elected people are taking part here and not nominated members of Rajya Sabha or Lok Sabha. Understanding? So if we see, the election is through elected members. It happens through proportional representation, so it avoids spillage of votes, and it is through single transferable vote, and also this is in your secret ballot. How is the, let's say, impeachment process? That is again through a special majority. For removal of president, understanding? For removal of president, only members of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha take place. Here, members of your state legislative assembly or union territory with state legislative assembly are not involved. Which means here it is elected plus nominated. That is how your removal process for the president takes place. One thing that is notable here is no president has been impeached up until now. Alright, so this is by an indirect form through an electoral college. Alright, that is for your president's election. Now, what are the qualifications or eligibility criteria to become a president of India? Again, so as to keep it not in a form which will be as to any particular family, hierarchy, caste or clan only should become the head of state, we have kept it in a more republic manner. Understanding? Anyone who meets this condition will be able to become the president of India. Then what are those provisions? First and foremost, he should be of 35 years of age. He or she should be a citizen of India. Here when we tell citizen of India, we will here bring a comparison between your US. In your countries like USA, if you have to become the president of India, then you should have been born citizen. But in India, we do not have any such provision. You could be a citizen either by birth or by naturalization. Understanding? And you should be qualified enough to be a member of Lok Sabha, and you should not hold any office of profit. Again, because we mentioned about US in the previous condition, we will bring here also when we will be discussing term. Usually the term of US president is 4 years, but in India usual term is 5 years. It can get extended after 5 years also, that is up until a new successor is elected. Now when I mentioned about your US president, it can be elected only for 2 terms. Whereas in India we have no such limit. Any number of times you can be re-elected. Okay. For the nomination of a president, you need 50 proposals, 50 seconders and 15,000 rupees deposit. Alright. Now if we say the oath, who will administer the oath? Usually for everyone, oath is administered by the president. Who administers the oath for the president? Either the Chief Justice of India or the senior most judge of Supreme Court. Alright. This is for your president. The term, like I mentioned, 5 years, can be re-elected any number of times. The impeachment process can happen only for violation of constitution. The majority here, again, it is very higher majority, 2/3 of the total strength of the house, and also like we mentioned in the impeachment, both elected as well as nominated members of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha take part. Here your legislative assemblies and union territories with legislative assembly will not be a part of it. Article 61 of your Indian Constitution speaks about impeachment process. Alright. Now let's come to the powers and functions of our president. Now when we say powers and functions, we will see it in sections. For example, executive. With respect to executive, he is the one who does the appointment of Prime Minister, Council of Ministers and all important positions. Understanding? He is the one who calls for the house, the legislative powers. He is the one who summons the parliament. He is the one who addresses the session at the beginning of every year and the beginning of every general assembly selection. He is the one who dissolves the Lok Sabha, and he dissolves the Lok Sabha with the aid and advice of Council of Ministers. He is the one who calls for the joint sitting of both houses, that is your Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. With respect to the financial approval, see, and a bill will become an act only when it receives a president assent. And many types of bills, of financial bills, can only be introduced with prior recommendation of the president. Understanding? With respect to judiciary, he has a lot of judicial powers. Again, when we say judicial powers, it is not to be considered as an alternate source of judiciary power, but he does exercise certain powers with respect to pardons. This is only created so as to make sure, even if there is a 0.01% of error rate, we want to make sure that there is some remedy. This is not a matter of right, the pardons. And also with respect to judiciary powers, he appoints the judges. Understanding? Then with respect to military, he is considered as the supreme commander of the armed forces. With respect to diplomatic, all the bilateral relations, agreements, etc. are all signed under the name of your President of India. Understanding? Next, our President also has something called as emergency power. That is, we have three types of emergency. Article 352. So the president can impose. Who can impose the emergency? Only president can impose emergency, and only with the written consent of the Council of Ministers. Council of Ministers does not mean Prime Minister, but the entire Council of Ministers. This changes was brought in after your 44th Amendment. And also it is said that President has the option for sending back an advice of COM for reconsideration. Another thing is, whatever spoken between the Council of Ministers and President is secret, meaning they are not subject for judicial review, whatever happens between the Council of Ministers and the President. So President has the power to invoke. He is the only one who can invoke emergency. We have three kinds of emergency, that is national emergency or external aggression. Initially it was armed rebellion or internal disturbances, that was removed. Then under 356 article we have president rule or state emergency. Then we have article 360 which speaks about your financial emergency. National emergency has been imposed, president's rule has been imposed a lot of times, and also your financial emergency has not yet been imposed up until now, even though we had a 1990s crisis. Alright. Then when it comes to the veto powers with regarding to the bills, President has, let's assume when a bill is tabled in Lok Sabha, let's assume it passes the bill and it goes to Rajya Sabha. Rajya Sabha also passes the bill. Now President has couple of options that he can do with the bill. First thing is he can give his assent. When he signs that bill becomes an act. He can withhold the bill or exercise absolute veto. Absolute veto means withhold. I am going to reject giving signature. That means that bill dies. Third is suspensive veto. Let's assume the President sends back the bill. Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha repass the bill with same majority. At this point of time, President has to give his signature. That is suspensive veto. Then fourth, pocket veto, which means just put it in his pocket and take no action. Example for this was done during your postal bill, right? Then we have something called as qualified veto, which is not present in India, but rather it is practiced in countries like your UPSC. Wherein if the President sends the bill back for reconsideration, if they pass it with higher majority, that bill is deemed to be passed. In India, we don't have the need for qualified veto because we already have suspensive veto. If same majority is repassed, then they can, the President has to give his assent. Alright, this is with regard to the veto powers of the President and emergency powers. Now let's see with respect to ordinance making powers of President. See, ordinance means, understand it more like a temporary law. This year 2025 prelims question asked about your ordinance making power, which said that ordinance cannot abridge fundamental rights. Assume it like this: whatever powers Parliament has with respect to law making, same thing your President's ordinance also has. Ordinance can be issued only by the President on the aid and advice of Council of Ministers. Now, when your President is going to be issuing an ordinance, it will be of same capacity and effect of that of a law of Parliament, but only temporary in nature. If Parliament cannot abridge a fundamental right, okay, if Parliament's law, then an ordinance also cannot abridge a fundamental right. Understanding? If in normal scenarios Parliament cannot make a law on stateless, then an ordinance also cannot do that. Right? I am telling only in normal scenarios. So, an ordinance making power is that of a President. It will be only happening or able to make an ordinance when either one or both the houses are not present. It is more of temporary provision. It is valid for 6 weeks post the reassembly of your Parliament, and also it is subject to judicial review, President's ordinance. Alright. Article 123 grants the power to the President to create ordinances. Alright. Now, when I said judiciary powers, we should not consider pardoning powers as judiciary powers, but again, like we said, even if there is a chance of 1% error rate, or if there is a last source of authority, maybe thinking that yes, courts also might have a possibility of making mistakes, then this is what your President will use. Again, President cannot use pardons at his discretions, but he is supposed to act on the aid and advice of Council of Ministers. In doing that, so no one can claim it as a matter of right, the presidential pardons, or it is no way to be considered an appellate mechanism. Understanding? What are the type of pardons we have? Pardon means either one scenario is complete absolution. You are removed of all the punishments. Commutation means you are awarded the lesser punishment than the original one. Then we have something called as remission. Remission means reduced sentence. Let's say you are put 10 years rigorous imprisonment. Then you can make it 5 years rigorous imprisonment. Then is respite. Respite is temporary suspension or more like a stay. A reprieve is stay of execution. Then what are the limitations? Again here also judicial review is applicable if it is malified, Also, there are constraints such as no discretion can be exercised by the president. It has to always be from the aid and advice of Council of Ministers. Okay. Now, with respect to the constitutional provisions, according to 42nd Amendment, post your mini constitutional changes, 44th Amendment brought certain changes that whatever aid and advice the COM offers, that is binding on the president. The president now has an option to resend, that is ask the COM to reconsider the advice. But even after reconsideration, if the COM sends back the same advice, then the president has to oblige by it. Understanding? If at all, if they have to, let's say, impose a national emergency, then it has to come through a written writing. Understanding? Now, when we will be speaking about discretionary powers of president, let's say there is something called president office and governor's office. Discretionary powers are more to the governor's office than compared to the presidential office. The governor has more of constitutional discretion as well as situational discretion, whereas president has only more of your situational discretion and not constitutional discretion. What are these situational discretions? In case it is a hung parliament, okay, or your no confidence has been passed by, and also sudden death of the prime minister, in these kind of scenarios, president can exercise situational discretion. Now, with respect to the current affairs topic, what is a news that has come into limelight on the office of president? That is, when President Draupadi Murmu exercised Article 143. What is Article 143? Constitutional questions which are being asked to the Supreme Court. What was the question that she asked? Look at this. When a state legislature will pass a bill, right? It will go to the president. What is the timeline on which the governor should act on that bill? This is coming based on the issues that emerged with respect to your Tamil Nadu governor and your state legislature conflict, where Supreme Court intervened, where your High Court intervened, and they had to invoke complete justice. Understanding? And they gave a particular guidelines as to within these many days you are supposed to act upon this to the governor. This brought about the question that is there a specific time limit on which a governor is supposed to act on the bills? Understanding? This is the current affair which is recently come into news. Another thing is with respect to President Draupadi Murmu visiting and also recently participating in your Swachh Survekshan, right? So all of these shows the president's engagement. Clear? The next we will be discussing is Vice President of India. Have a look at this. Now, when we say Vice President of India, it is the second highest constitutional office and it is ranked next to the president in the warrant of or order of precedence. Article 63 speaks about the position or power of existence of Vice President of India. Now, what is the election process? Now, with respect to the election process, the electoral college is smaller compared to that of the president. It includes both elected as well as nominated. Elected and nominated members of both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. It does not involve members of state legislative assembly or union territories with state legislature. The voting here is also again through proportional representation, single transferable vote, you secret ballot, and here also it is an indirect election. Alright. are the qualifications? See, again, has to be above 35 years of age, has to be a citizen of India, and must be qualified to be a Rajya Sabha member. Here, when we were speaking about president, in president we saw that must be qualified to be a Lok Sabha member. Yes or no? Here for vice president we would say qualified to be a member of Rajya Sabha and should not hold any office of profit. Understanding? The term is 5 years and can be re-elected any number of times. The office of vice president was modeled off of on the concept of your US vice president, but there are very significant changes here. In case the president of India is not able to complete the term, the remaining term is completed by the vice president in USA. But in India we do not have such provisions. By and max the vice president can act as a president in case president office is vacant. By and max only for 6 months, not more than that. Because we have a constitutional mandate that the president election, if it is vacant, has to be conducted within 6 months. Alright? The nomination is 20 proposes, 20 seconders. The president is 50 proposes, 50 seconders, 15,000 security deposit. Now, we will see about the term and your resignation removal of your vice president. Term is 5 years. Can be re-elected any number of times. If the person that is vice president is going to resign, then has to offer the resignation to the president of India. The removal process. The removal process is through effective majority. What is effective majority? Understand it like this. Let's say there are 543 seats. Okay. In this 543 seats, let's assume 3 seats are vacant. Okay, you will minus that from this. Okay, then in this you will have the majority. So basically first thing you have to know is effective majority means you will remove the vacancies. So now for your removal of your vice president, Rajya Sabha has to pass it with effective majority. And we have a term that says an agreed upon by Lok Sabha. Agreed upon means simple majority by Lok Sabha. Okay, there is no formal impeachment process etc. required. You just have to give 14 days of notice. And on what grounds can a vice president be removed? The process or the grounds are not mentioned. Now, what can be the possible causes of vacancy for a vice president's office? First thing is on expiry or completion of a 5-year term, or voluntarily giving the resignation to the president of India. Next is through removal, then is by death. Other thing is through disqualification, or if the election is declared void or null for the vice president post. What are the powers and functions of your vice president? First and foremost, he is the ex officio chairman of Rajya Sabha. Understanding, when we said effective majority by Rajya Sabha and agreed upon or simple majority by Lok Sabha is because he is the chairman of Rajya Sabha. Understanding, he will do the presidential function in case the president office is vacant only for 6 months, within which elections have to be conducted. In that 6 months, he will receive the housing allowance, etc. All that as out of a president. Alright. Now, why is the, or what is the news that is associated with vice president? That is, recently, Jagdeep Dhankar, the vice president of India, tendered his resignation. This is the first time that a vice president has resigned in the midterm. This is the very first time in the history of India that a vice president has resigned midterm. That is before completion of his term. Now here the reason for resignation given was citing his health reasons. But this has sparked a lot of political controversies, such as many opposition are claiming that this is centre's ploy of trying to get the vice president to has a major role in the resignation of vice president. This has also angered a lot of Jat community, especially around your Rajasthan regions. Now, this your opposition and your political parties are claiming that the center has to respond to this, for which center has maintained a silence. Okay. What are the political reactions? Like I mentioned, allegations of partition bias is there, wherein they are claiming that the center has a much bigger role to play in this. The questions are raised about the role of a Rajya Sabha chairman and how they are coerced into doing something as to provide their or tender their resignation. Constitutional questions are being raised. The regional impact is the Rajasthan's Jat community has led to a huge unrest, claiming that your vice president was a true Jat and he was representative of farmer interests. He has many times visited your Rajasthan, Haryana. So he was representative of that, and now doing this is again creating a vacuum, a political vacuum. So there is a huge issue of political realignments and also community representation concerns. The government response to this is, again, it has maintained a silence. This was also raised question about the transparency. Understanding, this is where your constitutional questions are coming in. So what are the implications? First and foremost, we have to see it from a non-partisan image, that is constitutional neutrality gets questioned, parliamentary chair or the credibility of the office, and then it sets a dangerous constitutional precedent as to if this is done, then it can happen further ahead also. This will impact the neutrality of the chair. Yes or no? This also affects the constitution to a larger extent. So this is the issues with regarding to your president and vice president linking to the static as well as current affair topic. With this, we are done with the content. If you like our content, subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, share it along with your friends. Thank you.